Welcome to this episode of Engine Base. We're going to do the exhaust testing on an Abarth made by Fiat, which is factory stock. We are also going to check EcoBoost Mustang that has been slightly modified. We're also going to check a Camaro V6 that has a slightly modified exhaust. And we're also going to check a Shelby GT350 Mustang. And we're going to use these tools. We have two dB meters that we're going to use today, and we're going to do testing to see if our decibel levels are lower than 95, just to kind of get a good range of where you guys might be with your cars.
Alright, so now to start the testing, we're going to be using two dB meters just to make sure that they're both pretty much accurate or nothing's too crazy on either one. This one's brand new, store-bought. This one's from a little science lab, that we got hooked up with. So we want to see the difference on everything. So in order to be compliant with bar, we got to be at level height with the exhaust at a 45-degree angle and 19.5 inches away. We're going to test this at idle, and we're also going to test it at 2,500 RPMs. So we're going to start with the Fiat. We're going to go ahead and fire it up. Alright, so we're going to get with our meter set up. At idle, you want to make sure the meter says dBA, which they both do. So as you can see on the meters, one's reading a little higher. This one's right here is a store-bought one, so it's probably not as accurate as this one. This one's also calibrated. Like I said, it's from the science lab, so it should be more accurate. So the difference is about 7 decibels. Either way, it's about 80, which is well under the 95 range. So we can say the Fiat is compliant at idle. Let's turn it up to 2,500 RPMs and see what happens. Go ahead and turn it up, Marty. So even at 2,500 RPMs, it's not going up by much. So we can basically safely say that this Fiat is under compliance with the new exhaust. Alright guys, now we're moving on to the slightly modified EcoBoost. We're going to do the same test, 45-degree angle, level with the exhaust, and 19.5 inches away. Go ahead and fire it up. At idle, this EcoBoost is still under compliance, averaging about 85 decibels on one and about 83 on the other. Let's take it up to 2,500 RPMs and see what happens. So as you saw, that thing was right at 93, 94 decibels. It did go over 95 at one point, but I don't think that would be a problem. Consistently, it was under 95 decibels, so I think it's safe to say this EcoBoost barely passes the test. Alright guys, so we just tested the 4-cylinder turbos. Now we're going to move up to a bigger motor, the V6 Camaro with the modified exhaust, and see what the difference is, if any, on the sound. So we have the car started at idle, and now we're level with the exhaust about 19.5 inches away. And as you can see, the decibels on this is actually a lot lower. So go ahead and bring it up to 2,500 RPMs, Marley. So at 2,500 RPMs, it's well under the 95 decibel range, staying like at 80, 85. So I believe it's safe to say this Camaro with the modified exhaust is legal for California laws. Okay, now it's time to test the GT350. This comes with active exhaust, so we're going to do two different tests. We're going to test it at normal mode, and we're also going to test it at track mode. see if there's a difference and how big of a difference there is. So this is the car with the valves closed on normal mode at idle. And at idle it's pretty good. It's at 83 decibel range on one, 80 and 75 on the other, 74. So we're gonna go ahead and turn it up and see what it goes up to. So at 2500 range, it's still under the legal limit. It's at about 92. So it's safe to say that on normal mode, this car is not gonna get fined. Okay, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna open up the valves and we're gonna test it at idle first, and then we're gonna test it at 2500 RPMs. So valves are open. So at idle, still pretty quiet, 85, 80, 77, 78. So safe to say at idle it's fine. Let's turn it up to 2500 RPMs and see how far it goes. Pretty much right there, 94, 95 decibels. When he decelerated, obviously it sounded louder, but at idle and at 2500 RPMs consistently, it was around 93, 94. It was a little lower on this one. This one's not calibrated, this one is. So this one's a little more accurate, but we've been seeing them test with, you know, these that have the little microphones under the. All right guys, so we're gonna try something out right now. We're gonna test an app that we downloaded, dB meter, versus the actual dB meter that we use for the testing to see how accurate or inaccurate it can be. So here we are level with the exhaust, and you can see the difference between the meters. This one's about 80, this one's about 76. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn it around because the microphone is on this side and see if there's a difference. Let's bump it up to 2500. So we just did the testing with the app and the actual dB meter, and it wasn't that far. It was about 4 or 5 decibels. It's not as accurate, which you shouldn't expect it to be. So if you're running at 94, 95 decibels on the cell phone, on the app, you're probably gonna be over the legal limit, you know, with the actual decibel meter. But if you're running at 80, 85 decibels, you're probably fine to be able to drive without getting the ticket. So it's good for a reference. Like I said, not 100% accurate, but it's definitely good for a reference.
Alright guys, so that's it for this video. It's really good to know that all 4 of the vehicles that we tested is in fact California state legal. So even if you have a modified exhaust, you're more than likely okay. But you know, it really is going to depend on you guys and going out and actually testing your vehicles if you are in the state of California. We do have some awesome other videos that we've done before kind of explaining the law, and those are in the description down below, as well as other great resources that we found that might be helpful for you. So if you like this video, make sure you subscribe and share with your friends, and we will see you next time.